Right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Robert here from Autotalk Australia, and my guest today is Mr. Richard Dicello. He's the head of Gumtree Cars in Australia. Richard, welcome.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Let's start off with talking a little bit about the recent initiatives that you've put up for the dealers in Australia. Would you like to tell us what you did and how successful it's been so far?
Yeah, so thanks, Robert. So as you know, we're all facing unprecedented times across not only the automotive industry, but across the world, really. So at Gumtree Cars, we decided to take some measures to support our dealers. And we took these measures based on a number of reasons, but primarily our goal was to support the dealers through these unprecedented times, knowing full well that they're going through significant challenges, as we all are. So we took the opportunity to support them as much as we possibly could. So the first thing we did was we've waived all subscription fees in April for them, which was quite a significant measure on our behalf, but also too, we've given them an extension on the previous billing cycle of an additional 30 days to support them through this period. And on top of that, we've also provided them with a number of tools and guides to help support them through these changing times, particularly as we move into some of the restrictions that the governments are putting on them. We decided to give them some digital guides, also to some tips on potentially how they can interact with customers who are unable to come to the dealership for various reasons.
On that note, Richard, how well are dealers coping with those restrictions that the government is placing upon them?
Yeah, so and I think that the first thing to consider here is, and our thoughts are always with people more broadly across the industry, but in particular, the first thing we wanted to focus on was making sure, not only from a dealership point of view, but also internally, that our health and our staff's health, and also the staff in the dealership, the health, well-being and safety was the first priority. So we proactively have been reaching out to our dealer partners to not only support them, but to help guide them through these unprecedented times. And you get mixed responses. Definitely, we've got some dealers that are struggling more than others. Some dealers that have put some strong strategies in place to help them cope. But yeah, there's been a number of dealers that have had to take some measures to make sure they get through these times. In particular, we know they've had to rationalise some of their staff with trading conditions being challenged. They're running variable rosters. Of course, people are still needing to get their cars serviced, so they've got to make sure that their service bays are fully stocked with the right staff, but also to be mindful and respectful of the conditions in each state, abiding by the various rules that the governments are putting in place.
Absolutely. Where do you see the market going after, in terms of a digital strategy? Where do you see the market going once we've actually gotten through the worst of the pandemic? Do you think that this is going to are we going to see a greater shift towards digitalization, people using the internet to conduct business?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, we're already seeing dealers more willing to engage with platforms like Gumtree Cars. And you'd be familiar with the research that we conducted prior to the situation with COVID-19, the connecting the disconnected research that we put into the market last year. And what we saw is Australian dealers embrace technology for some time now. We saw the findings revealed that dealers are generally positive around technology. And the majority of dealers indicated that they anticipate increased usage of things like social media and mobile to have a positive impact on their business. I think the effect COVID-19 and the situation that we're all in will mean a speeding up of that process. And it's already in place with the majority of dealerships. And we firmly believe partners like Gumtree Cars are here to support them as they embark on that journey, and also too as they need to learn more around how to embrace these online tools. And the other part to that is, whilst we know customers still want that showroom experience, I think having a digital strategy in place enables dealerships to engage and connect with buyers, also in the digital space, but also too, I think it's a key to their survival as we move past the current pandemic. And I suppose the good news is for dealers is there are really simple solutions that they can engage with and implement really quickly. And of course, the simplest solutions is having all of their inventory listed on a site like Gumtree. And we know that in the current situation, it's really important for them to retain their visibility, also to stay at the top of mind of potential buyers who, in these current situations, will be browsing on our site and potentially will be preparing to buy once the crisis is over. And that's one of the key reasons why we made that decision to waive all the fees in April, to make sure that the dealers can list all of their inventory on the site and be confident that they can manage their cash flow through this uncertain period.
Thank you, Richard. That's a really great answer and explains a great deal to me. In the future, Deloitte have said that dealerships are going to shrink in number. We've seen, for example, the demise, unfortunately, of Holden. We know that Honda is going to undergo a very large restructure of the dealerships, and there's going to be quite a bit of consolidation in the market. With all that going on, is it just as important now as in the future for dealers to be thinking ahead about how they can conduct business quicker, faster, more effectively?
And then there's a couple of parts to this question, and there's a couple of answers I'd like to give. The first thing I want to respond to is the Deloitte figures that you mentioned, and we know even before the COVID-19 situation started to take effect that there was changes within the industry. You mentioned Holden leaving Australia, also to Honda's decision to rationalise their dealer network and change their distribution model. So we saw signs of that pre-COVID-19, and not that anyone can predict how the industry will look once we get through this situation, but you would suspect that there'd be further changes. I would say that the OEMs would be looking closely at the model. But the one thing that I will say is, and again, our research that we conducted last year showed that still 56% of vehicle purchasers wanted to enter and have a dealership experience before they made the buying decision. So we still know that the majority of Australians want to visit a showroom. They want to have an experience before purchasing a vehicle. So as I said, we know that the COVID-19 situation will probably cause the OEMs to evaluate their respective strategies, and they might modify their approach potentially. And I'm sure off the back of that, dealers would prefer to hold less stock and drive down some of their holding costs. But I don't see mass showroom closures, and I certainly don't see vehicles being delivered from 3PL distribution centres, for instance, becoming the norm. But I think one thing's for sure, having a robust digital strategy and being able to list all your inventory online should be the number one priority right now. I guess the other way to look at it is we need to continue supporting the dealers through this period of uncertainty and make sure that we all as an industry come out the back of it stronger.
Richard, thank you very, very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I don't have any more questions for you, but wanted to say thank you very much for your insights and for being our first video interview for Autotalk Australia in 2020.
Thanks, Robert. Really appreciate you having me on, and it was great just to share some of my insights and some thoughts. And I think it's really important that as an industry we all stick together. We're all part of the automotive industry that we love so much, and it provides so much to us because we are employed in the industry, but also to provide so much to the people that are clearly investing have facilities, so the car dealers across the country, but also to the communities that they operate in. So yeah, as I said, it's really important that we do stick together. We'll do everything we possibly can to support them through, and we look forward to coming out the other side, as I said, stronger for it.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Richard.